Hello, my name's Ryan, and today we're going to be talking about creating tests inside of Blackboard. So I'm in my course right now, and I'm going to create a test that I want to give to my students. Now, I've given myself a content area here called tests. All I did was go up to the plus side and add a content area. It's not going to by default have one for you, but if you'd like to put one in there, you can. And if I click on that right now, it's going to say that that's empty. Obviously, we don't have a test to put in there. So how I'm going to do this, if I'm going to go up to assessments, and it's going to have a few different options for me to choose from. Now there's tests and survey at the top, and really the only difference between a test and a survey is a test will have scores associated with them. And what that means is that not only will it have a score, but it'll create a grade center column for the grade of that score to go into. And surveys aren't graded, so they're just not going to have a Blackboard grade center column made for it or anything like that. And then we've also had assignments that we've gone over in a different tutorial and mobile compatible tests. So I'm going to click on test, and it's going to come to this screen. Now, if we've already created a test and we just want to add it in there real quick, we can do that. So add an existing test. I have one in here called test. And if we wanted to do that, this is where we would go. But I'm going to be creating a test from scratch, so I'm going to hit create. All right, so when this screen pops up, we're just going to give our test a name. I'm just going to call it test 1. And then we can give a description and instructions. And the difference between those two is description would be this is what the test is going to be about. Some of your instructions might be what I talked about in the last video, where don't use your back or refresh buttons on your browser. Make sure to save your work all the time. This could also be things like that you're only going to have half an hour to take the test, or you only get one attempt. So things like that would go in the instructions. Once you're done though, you can hit submit. Alright, so once we get into this screen, we don't have any test questions, but this is where we'll start adding them. But before I want to add any of these test questions, before we even start doing anything, I'm going to go over to question settings, because we have to set all the settings before we start adding questions, because it's not going to retroactively change any questions that we've done before. So any of these settings, if we do it after we add questions, we'll have to go back and change the original questions that we put in. So I'm going to click on question settings. And here's going to be the different settings that we can do for our test. So number 1, feedback. Do you want to provide feedback for individual answers? You can give feedback for each one that they go through. You can also give feedback just overall when they get their grade. Images, files, and web links. So are you going to add any images to any of these questions? You know, you're going to download a picture or have anything like that? Or do you want the user to upload any images for an answer? You'll have to click these if you want that to work. So I am going to add those too. And then there's a few other questions here, different settings. I'm not going to go through every single one. The big one though is scoring, and the default point value is 10 points per question. So you know, you can change this afterward. You can go through and change it for every single one, but for the default, when every time you make a new question, I'm going to change that to 1. So I want mine to be default 1. And then once you've looked through these and you see everything that you want, I'm going to hit submit. Alright, now we're back and we're ready to create some questions. So here's where we're going to choose a question that we're going to create within our Blackboard test. Now I'm going to do a simple one to start out with, and we'll do one more after I get done. So I'm just going to do a multiple choice question. Once we get to this screen, we don't actually have to give it a question title, but we do have to give it some question text. And then we have a few options we can also give it. We don't actually have to do any answer numbering. It'll automatically number it itself. The answer orientation vertical, usually that's what people are used to, so I give that. You can allow partial credit, and then you can also show the answers in random order. And I do like selecting that one because each student will then have a different test every single time. And then you just scroll down to 3, and it's the very first answer is selected as correct, so this is where we'll put our correct answer. Since we made the answers in a random order, you know, it won't matter which ones we select as 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is where if I wanted to add a file, like maybe a picture of Jupiter, if I wanted to add that in, and then we can also give web links too. And then answer 2, I'm going to put Earth. Same options. Saturn. Now let's say I wanted to put in more options than that. Let's say I wanted 5 or 6 topics to choose from here. Or let's say I wanted less. Let's say I wanted 3. If I only wanted a few, I could just remove them up here. So I could just remove as many as I wanted to. And if I wanted to do more, I would just select number of answers. And you can do up to like 100, which seems ridiculous. Alright, so once I have that in, I can also give feedback. So this is the correct response feedback. So that's what you would give them there. Incorrect response feedback, if you want to give any of that. And then if you wanted to add this to any sort of category or add keywords to it or things like that, and this is more if you're going to create a lot of questions and then you want to reuse them for specific topics that you're going to do, this is where I would add that. And so once you're done with that, we're just going to hit submit. And great, we have this one question here. We have the number of points it's worth. We can go in and edit this if we want by clicking the downward arrow and just hitting edit, or we can delete it, or we can make a copy if we have a question that's very similar. And we can also get the details of it by having that pop up. So most of these questions are going to be very similar to make, you know, multiple choice, true, false, short answer, ordering, lots of those. It's going to look very similar. One that I am going to I'm going to do one more, and I'd like to bring everyone's attention just to hotspot, because I think that's a cool type of question and I feel like it doesn't get used enough. So I'm going to click on hotspot. So what a hotspot question is you're going to upload an image, and then you're going to make a selection of pixels inside of that image. If the students click within the range of pixels that you selected, then the answer is going to be recorded as correct. So what that is like, I'm going to upload a picture of a skeleton, and I'm going to ask something lame like, where's the skull of the skeleton? And then if they select the right area, they'll get a right answer. So that's what I'm going to do. Then I'm going to browse my computer and get the image. And then hit next. And my image was really big. I probably should have made that smaller. But what you're going to do now is you're going to take your mouse and just scroll over the part of the skull, or the selection that we want to make, that when the students click on it, that'll be what's correct. So I pulled that around there. We have a skull, or we have the box around. And then we can give feedback, we can give incorrect and add keywords and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to hit submit. Now we have a where is the skull hotspot question created. So this is really how you would create tests. You would go through and just add more questions, and then once you were done, you would scroll down to the very bottom, hit OK. So then that would make your test available for you to add to Blackboard. Thank you for watching this video on creating Blackboard tests.